Hello. So from today we will be getting into our advanced JavaScript curriculum. Now, what kind of mindset you might require for getting into this unit, for getting into this particular part of curriculum. So first of all, as you'll be moving forward, as you'll be learning React, as you'll be learning backend, the only way you can master those things if you have mastered the fundamentals of JavaScript. Like let's say tomorrow you encounter that JavaScript behaving in a certain way and you don't know why it is happening. That means you can't figure out a bug. That means you can't solve a complex problem, right? So this particular unit and especially this particular class, this how JavaScript works, is very important for you to understand how things in JavaScript actually work, so that it will give you a better picture of how a particular program is running, and making sure that you are writing the best code that JavaScript can offer to you. So let's get into that. Number one thing is, for every programming language, obviously data types is there, but in every programming language, string, numbers, objects, arrays, functions, they behave little differently. So how that thing happens in JavaScript, we will learning about that. But before getting into anything, data, computer's world is always about data. There are no anything like feelings, emotion, no, it's just data. So our job is to better understand how a computer works with that data, right? And when we are talking computer, the tool that we use to talk to computer is a programming language. So instead of getting into the complexity of computer hardware, we will focus our efforts onto the understanding programming language, that is our JavaScript. Now, why do we need a data types? That's the number one thing in any programming language. So listen, to get an idea, like if you are looking at this picture, you can see it is a lot of mess that is here. So how you can what is your first step to understand and work with such data? Obviously you will go and categorize it. Now see the difference between these two pictures. So that's why having data types is very important for us, the categorization, right? Now you already learned that we have 5 primitive data types and 3 non-primitive. So what are the primitive? Like the basic building block of any programming language. And what are those? In JavaScript, we have string, boolean, number, undefined, and null. You have already gone through all of those. I know there might be some confusion between null and undefined that we'll be covering. And then for each data type, we have some built-in method that JavaScript provides us, so that you don't have to keep on writing code by yourself. Like for finding the length of a string or array is a very common feature, right? And if you have to write code for it every single time, then that really is not efficient thing. So for such cases, JavaScript will provide you the built-in functionality out of the box. For numbers, we have the math methods. So these are some math methods, just going through the recap of it. It's not something that we'll be covering in the lecture, but again, you should be aware of, like, these are the data types and these are the method that JavaScript provides us out of the box. For Boolean as well. Now coming to the null and undefined part, see, understand that null is something that we assign to a variable to wipe out all the data in it. Whatever data that is there, we are wiping it out. So null is still a value. It's just that it represents a zero value, that there is nothing. It's like empty, or we just don't know value of it, something like that. Value unknown is little different, shouldn't be the part of it, but nothing and empty is what you should be using when it comes to understanding what null is actually doing in JavaScript. And for the undefined means something which is not defined, right? But the way it has been said in JavaScript, or the way it has been implemented, it's little different. So the meaning of undefined is value is not assigned. So to give you an example, if I go and write a code, so where a is equal to 10, this is a perfect example of declaring a variable, assigning it, and giving it a value. But if I just don't give it a value, that means the value, we don't know what it is. We don't even know whether the value is null, right? We don't even know about it. So in such cases, the value of way will be undefined. So understand that whenever you don't have an equal sign, like you don't know the value of it, you don't know whether it is null, whether it is zero, anything at all. In such cases, we have an undefined value, and JavaScript assigns this value by itself. So it's not something that you should be doing. Like you might try to do something like this, a is equal to undefined. No, you don't have to do that. You just declare the variable, and if you want to use it later on, a is equal to 10, you can do that. But till this time, JavaScript will keep this value as undefined. I just have typed at line number 70. So that's how undefined work and null works. So this is one better picture for you to understand. Non-zero value, obviously something is there, you can say it. Zero means that value is not like the quantity is zero, and null means like it's not there, like something that exists but the value is empty. It's the data is wiped out of it. And undefined means it just doesn't exist, we just don't know the value of it. So this is the picture that might help you in understanding null and undefined. Very small difference, but if you just get into more into it, you will be understand the you'll be getting more clarity about null and undefined. Now for the non-primitive data types, we have object, array, functions. Again, you know what those are, and as we'll be moving on, so these things will be fundamental to our solving problems and everything, so no need to go again. Now this is some alien concept you are looking at, by value and by reference. So what is this thing? See, in assignments, so what is an assignment in JavaScript, right? That's the first thing that we should be aware of. I'll just get into day1.js, just link it. All right, so let's say where a is equal to 10. So this is my assignment, and what data type I have here? It's a number, right? And I will do one more assignment. Variable b is equal to name Masai. Now which data type it is? Sorry, object. Now the way we are looking at is very abstract idea, like we don't know how these things are being represented in the memory. We don't know how JavaScript is acting on these things. One thing is sure, that it is different. This is number and this is object. There is a key value pair here, there is nothing as such. So in memory these things might be getting stored differently, right? So that's what we'll be learning here. So the thumb of rule you should be understand is, in primitive data types, in string, number, boolean, those 5 data types, they hold the actual value. That means a is actually equal to 10. Okay, now this is something that might seem okay, this is very common, this is understandable. Yeah, for primitive data type, that's fine. A has a value of 10. Now you might say, okay, for b has a value of this, right? This name Masai, right? But no, for the non-primitive data types, what they do, they hold the location of value. So now one thing is clear, this value should be somewhere in the memory, right? There is some address for that memory, and b actually holds the address of it. So let's say the address is abc123, something like that. So b actually holds the address of it, it doesn't hold this actual value. So consider b as a wire. It is a wire which is pointing to a value. It is not holding that actual value, it is just pointing to the value. Okay, but in these cases it directly points to the value in primitive data types, and here this wire of variable, it points to the address of that value. So that's one difference between non-primitive or primitive. So you can have strings here, null, undefined, boolean, and here we have array and then function. They hold the address and they hold the actual value in the memory. Remember, we are getting in detail of how these things actually behave under the hood, something that we cannot see, right? And depending on that, how it changes your way of writing code, how it changes your actual understanding of JavaScript, right? That's what we'll be getting into now. So it's all about how JavaScript handles the data it has to store, and it's called memory management. And these are the fancy terms, tech terms used for that. It stores by value, I mean stored actual value, and it happens in primitive. And for non-primitive, it holds address. I would have liked it if they are named it by address, but it's okay, it's by reference. So you have to make sure that you're getting these things right. For primitive, actual value, non-primitive, address is stored. Now reassignment. So how, as I said you, how does that thing changes, like how this behavior of memory changes things for us. So what I'm going to do, so if I do where b is equal to a, and then I do b is equal to 20, then I just type console.log. I'll just make it a little better. So what is this thing? This thing is called assignment, right? We are assigning a value, we are doing everything, and this thing is called reassignment. We are assigning a new value now, and it has an existing value. No, sorry, it's not reassignment, my bad. We are actually assigning this value to a different thing. Now, as the value of A is 10, so that means at this point the value of B would be 10, right? I mean, that's very common sense. But now the value of B is 10. So in such case, what will be the value of A? That's the question. I just change here to A. Let's go to the browser and see the value of A would be, see, HTML. All right, so the value of A is 10 here. So that means nothing has changed here. We just assign in sorry, declared a new variable, assign an existing value to it, and we changed B, but changing B did not change anything in A. Now the same thing, literally same thing I'm going to do for our non-primitive data type, which is object. So what I'm going to do, where C is equal to B, right? Now I'm going to do C dot name is equal to Masai School. And all I want to do now is I want to check, is there any change in the original variable? Okay, the original variable is B, whose value is getting copied to C, and then we are changing C. Remember, we are not changing B, we are changing C. So that means B shouldn't get changed at all. But if I go there, you can see there is a change in Masai School. Sorry, change in the object B, our original object. So that gives us one fundamental rule that we can see clearly. We have the proof of it, and it is that in JavaScript, for primitive data types, the original variable is not modified on changes in other variables. But for non-primitive, which is by reference, the original variable gets modified on changes in other variables. But it has to have a link to it, like as we have done here, where B is equal to A. So when we do that, you can see there is a change in the original object when we just assign that object to a new variable and change the value of that new variable. If b.name would have done, this would have made sense, but we are doing c.name and still it is changing. So that is one way how JavaScript's primitive and non-primitive data types works. We'll be getting into more detail of that thing. So that brings us to the concept of data mutability, right? Now I'm assigning this variable and this data is easily getting changed, right? And that's not what I want. That means, let's say tomorrow I am making an admin, right? And the name of that admin is, let's say, Raj. And next day there is a particular developer who came into the team, and what he did was, so let's say where user, he wrote a code like this. So he just wanted to have a user, and then he changed the name of the user, and that's fine from inside. But now what is happening is our admin is also getting changed, and admin usually doesn't get changed. It's a very secure feature, right? So instead of Raj, now we have Masai School. That means our code is getting changed. And we don't want it that way. We don't want these things to be changed. Even JavaScript is doing that thing under the hood. Sometimes we don't want that kind of behavior. We want to limit it because it is going to create a lot of changes in our code. So that's where mutability comes in. Mutability means to be able to change or modify something. In JavaScript, primitive data types are immutable. Like you cannot change their value in memory. Remember this particular concept. I'm talking about memory. I'm not just talking about JavaScript code. And in non-primitive, value can be changed directly inside of a memory. And mutability refers to changing the value itself and not the value of a variable. Like to give you an idea, so here what I'm going to do, I will keep let me just remove this thing. I'll just keep the admin for a while. So I'm going to take a string. The string is Masai. Now see, if I do A is equal to school, and if I console.log this thing, now this thing is a very valid code and A will give me the value as school, right? And then you'll be like, you just said that in primitive data types, you cannot change the value. It is immutable, but I am changing the value here, right? And it is the proof right there, which is contradicting this statement. So that means there is that little edge case in this statement, which we are not covering here. So what is that? Remember, value cannot be changed in memory, the actual value. So here we are changing the value of A. Remember, we are just changing where A is now pointing to. A was pointing to Masai before, now A is pointing to school. But in this case, what is the actual value? The actual value is Masai. And how do we access it? We can access it into getting into the index of it. So A of 0. So if I just do A of 0, now I should be able to get the actual value. And if I try to change that actual value, A of 0 is equal to, instead of M, I want to do, let's say A. And if I console.log A now, it is not changing anything. Masa is still there. So that's what I mean by value cannot be changed in memory. It's immutable in that sense, but that is something which will not happen with the object. Like if I get an array here, 1, 2, 3, and if I do admin 0 is equal to Masai, and if I just console.log admin, you can see that it is getting changed. So see, this particular code, only 7 line of code will help you understand this line. In JavaScript, primitive data types are immutable and non-primitive are mutable. Now, sometimes you don't want to mutate the code. Sometimes you want to have that immutability. You don't want anyone to come in and start changing the values. That means like I had this good numbers 1, 2, 3, and someone just came in and added Masai, and we don't want something like that. We want to keep it freezed. We want to make sure that no one is able to change it, and that concept is called as immutability in JavaScript. So there are a lot of benefits to immutability. We'll be covering in that, and we'll be also covering how you can implement immutability in your code. Okay, so now next thing that is there is, and this is one a better picture for you to understand immutability. You can give shape to things that you want, like you can change those things, but immutability is like rock solid. Once you define it, you can't change it. That means your code is now much more solid. No one can come in and directly change it. But mutability, even though it has flexibility, that means anyone can come in and anything can be changed, and it will become very hard for you to understand what things were changed 1 hour ago, 2 hour ago, 3 hour ago, because the shape of it might just keep on changing. But immutability, whatever shape you had on day 1 will be the same on day 10 also, and same on day 100 as well. So you can see how it can give you the clear cut understanding of your program. Now, getting into the more details of how JavaScript works, we'll just, okay. So as you can see, we have 3 languages here. Even I don't know what are the other languages. I just Googled it and put it on the slide. So only thing I can understand is what is your name. So that means my brain is only able to understand this particular language. I just can't do it. So behind every language, there lies a processing engine to understand it. And for us humans, it's brain, but for computer, it's compiler or interpreter. But don't worry about it. Just make sure that for computers to understand a programming language, because programming language is in English, they can't understand it. They can only understand numbers, ones and zeros, right? And how we can do that? We can do that using by designing a compiler or designing an engine. So that's where the JavaScript engines comes into the play. So you write a code here. So if I do console.log hello world, and if I enter it, something is going to happen, you know, for a fact. And when I enter it, sorry, I did not see. Okay, anyways, that's a cool thing as well. So something happened, right? And if I console.log it, or sorry, I think you can't use console.log here. Let's do a is equal to 10, and I'm going to just type a. So when I do that a, now one thing is sure, you are talking to a computer. Your a is equal to 10, then 10 is getting printed here. So what is happening behind the hood, how that browser is understanding what we want. Like when I type a, how it is showing me that 10 there, right? And that happens because of JavaScript engine. Now understand, JavaScript engine is just a one program which is helping browser to understand your JavaScript. Because if your browser don't understand JavaScript, no site will work on the internet, not Google, not YouTube, nothing at all, because JavaScript is run by browser. That means each browser has its different engine. For Chrome it is V8, for Mozilla SpiderMonkey and Chakra as well. So it will give you the errors, it will give you everything. Like it just gave me the error, like we have seen here, syntax error. It couldn't understand what it was. It can't deal with console.log here, that's what it told me. So I have to type in a is equal to 10. Basically I have to follow its rules so that it can give me the output that I wanted. So any error that you would be encountering later on, understand that it's JavaScript engine which is doing the work for you and making sure that you are writing a right JavaScript code. Now how your code is executed, like all of this thing, this a is equal to must sign, all of this thing, how it is getting executed, right? Like what's the thing that is happening, and how does that process looks like? What is the first step to that process when I type this a is equal to must sign, all these things? So what is the process which is going on here? Now one of the important thing about that process, number one thing is called as hoisting. And I don't even get into the technical term of it, just let's just forget hoisting for now. So hoist mean to raise, to lift something. And how does that relate to our language? Now see, hoisting helps keep the attendance sheet of a JavaScript program. Now what is an attendance sheet of a JavaScript program? For each JavaScript program we have variables, right? I have declared the variables here, this admin and yeah, these are the two variables. So even before doing anything, JavaScript has to know what variables it has. So where admin, and after that it will start doing whatever it has to do. But before that it will have to understand what kind of variables are present there, anything at all, where. Why? Because it helps JavaScript to understand how much memory to allocate, where to allocate, right? So that is why this attendance sheet, and this process is called as hoisting. So how hoisting works, to give you an example. So where name is equal to Raj, and then what I'm going to do, always the code. Yeah, so let's just keep it one single line. Now when JavaScript looks at this, remember JavaScript never looks at a value in the first time. All it cares is what variables are present in a JavaScript program. That means it will rewrite this exact same thing as var name. Okay, I have got that variable name exists. Apart from that, there is nothing in this program, nothing at all. And once it is done with getting attendance sheet, now it will start attaching values to it. So it will look like this. And this is exactly the principle of hoisting. So this is an hoisted code, and this is not what JavaScript actually does. Okay, like JavaScript doesn't take this variable, put it out and write code like this. No, JavaScript only goes line number 3. Okay, you have typed var, that's mean this is a variable. Okay, cool, fine, I have got the variable name. I don't even care about the value at all, right? So it will just get the value, but it will look something like this. That's why I'm showing you. That is the hoisted representation of a code. For any code, all you have to do is find what are the variables present there, and that means even the function declaration as well, function test, whatever you want to put it, it will also move this thing to the top, because function is again a declaration. Remember, okay, it's a variable declaration. Again, test is the name of the variable which holds function in it, and that's the hoisting. And again, all hoisting cares about is what variables and functions are present in a JavaScript program. Now let's talk about execution context. So context, what does it mean? It means a background, environment, or surroundings of event or occurrence. Okay, cool. So now how does that relate to my JavaScript program? Okay, remember Java execution context in JavaScript is an environment in which JavaScript code is executed. Okay, so what is my environment? Okay, this particular window, right? Whatever I'm seeing from line number 1 to 20. Okay, that's fine. Now let's putting into some technical terms into it. So by environment, we mean the value of variables, objects, and functions JavaScript code has access to at a particular point of time. Now, if JavaScript code goes here where name is equal to Raj, okay, JavaScript has access to name. If I type in a function, and if I type in, let's say, where a is equal to 10, okay, cool, fine. So now when JavaScript will go, obviously to execute a function, JavaScript has to go inside it, right? So that means now JavaScript is in a prison. It is in a prison of this function starting from 6 to 11. And now when JavaScript is in a prison, it can still access the values outside of that function. So name can be accessible here. Okay, so if I just do console.log name, that will happen. But then whatever you write inside of a prison, whatever you write inside of this function, those things will not be accessible to you outside of it. So if I do console.log a, I will not able to access it. As you can see, this a, it still shows me it is declared, but its value is never used. So that's what is happening. When it goes inside of a function, it has access to different variables, right? And when it goes outside of the function, it has access to different variables. And whatever variables it has access to, that's what we mean by execution context. That's what we mean by this two types of execution context that will come into the picture. One is global execution context. Global mean it is the king of the jungle. It can access everything. Even it goes inside a function, it can access any variable there. And second is functional execution context. So what does functional execution context mean? It is created whenever JavaScript goes inside of the function and start executing the code. So when it goes there, it will find some variables, and those variables will never ever will be accessible to you outside. Like here, a is declared in this function. Okay, remember I'm talking about declaration, not just assignment. Okay, so if I do name is equal to Rahul, this name will be still accessible to me. Okay, it will still be accessible to me, but as I did a is equal to 10, this a will not be accessible to me outside of the function. So these are the two execution contexts, functional and global, and how they actually work we will learn about them in the class. But remember that to give you again an idea of it. So where it went, yeah, so global execution context, it is the default. Okay, whenever JavaScript loads, whenever JavaScript code starts executing, it is the execution context which is created. So this is the first thing that happens. Why? Because obviously your JavaScript code is in a global environment and it has to have some variables it needs access to, and at that point the global execution context is created. Functional means just a part of a globe, like an India is a part of globe. India has its own culture, so every country is in limited in itself. Like even though you can move here and there, but still every culture has its limited access, and basically whatever is in that country is usually stays in that country. Like the culture of India is usually inside that country only. You can't just go and get it outside, right? So that's what I mean by functional execution context. Whatever variable you define inside of a function, it is accessible to that function only. Like Diwali, it is only accessible to Indians only, like primarily. Okay, don't think about you can celebrate Diwali in New York and as well, but still these things which are there inside a function only accessible to the function. And I'm talking about variable declaration, function declaration. Okay, so function execution is created whenever it finds any function call. It won't create it without any reason. If there is no function present in your JavaScript program, then functional execution context will never ever be created. Now for each execution context, there are two phases. Number one is creation. So in creation, basically it just takes the attendance of it. Okay, I have got the program. First, I want to check what variables are present there. That's what happens in creation phase. And in execution phase, actual value gets assigned to it and actual execution starts. To give you an idea, So this is the creation phase, as you can see on the right hand side. Even though I have value to X, even though I have value to function, Y, everything, but it is still showing me undefined, right? So this is just a creation, just taking the attendance of it. This is the first step. Why? Because JavaScript have to figure out the memory first, where to allocate, how much to allocate, on all those things. So that's why this creation phase. And after that, we have execution phase. And now here actually you can see that it assigns values to the variable. So here X was undefined and here X is 10 now. So you can see how things are moving upward in a JavaScript program, and it also execute the function call in the execution context. So that's about execution context. And like which thing JavaScript has to figure out, like which thing it has to run. So let's say you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 functions inside your JavaScript programs. To give you an example, so the call stack is something that JavaScript uses. This is how it looks like. Each thing on top of it, to give you an example. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this function over and over again. Test1, test2, test3. So as you can see here, there are a lot of functions that is happening here. So I can just execute test1, test, or and then I can execute test1 here. Like I can do anything, right? That's the flexibility of a program. So then how JavaScript keeps track of what to execute when, and that's when this execution stacks comes in. It is based on the LIFO principle called last in first out. How can you understand that? Like when you put a book on top of other books, the last book that you have put, like this yellow book, it is the first one that you are going to remove, right? And then after that you are going to remove the books. So basically whatever book came in the last, so this yellow book came the last and it will be the first which is getting popped out. But how does that relate to our JavaScript code? So as you can see, I have some function main, function add, function average, and then I have some execution call inside of this function. But since these are function declaration, it will not get executed as long as JavaScript doesn't find any execution call. Remember, not function declaration, function call. Where is a function call here outside of any function? It's called as main. So it will add main first, then it will go to main. Okay, what does main have? Okay, main have one more thing to complete. It's called average, and it will add average. After that add, it will add that add function, and then it will go to add. As you can see, there is nothing inside of this add function. So that means now JavaScript knows, okay, now I can start executing this function. So it executes add first, then average, and ultimately that means your main has been executed as well. So that's how stack was. Apart from that, we have the concept of variable scope. Now how does that variable scope works? With our code, yeah. So variable a is equal to 10, it is accessible everywhere. So if I do console.log a, it is accessible everywhere. Even if I just write a function test, just write keep console.log a here as well, and just execute it. So I go to the code, you can see two A's are getting printed at line number 7 and line number 13. That means this A is accessible to me everywhere, even inside of a function, even inside of this, let's say a block. Okay, this is a block. Even if I put this thing here, it is accessible to me as well, as you can see. But now one crazy thing will happen. As I said, functional execution context, right? So if I take this thing and put it here, and let's just remove console.log a, and I want to console.log a here now. So if I do that, if I go back here, it will show me a is not defined. So that means whatever things are declared inside of the function are only limited to that function. And how I can prove that? All I have to do is console.log it inside of the function, and now it will show me the value. So that means this a is accessible only inside of this function. So it has a scope, it has a range, it has a coverage which is limited to only that function. And what do we call it? we call it a local scope. But if we just take it out of here, we put it inside our global thing, like it is not limited by anything, it's not in any kind of prison, and then you can access it from everywhere. And it is called as you can see, 2 tens I can see, and it is called as global scope. Now there is one more scope that was introduced recently in JavaScript, and it is called as it is called as a block scope. So what is a block scope, or what is a block in JavaScript? In JavaScript, block are these curly brackets. You can write anything inside of it, like you use it for if else, use it for while, you use it for loop. Okay, so let's try that, where a is equal to 10, and I'm going to do console.log a. I'll just comment this code out for a while. So if this thing is right, that block scope, which means it will be limited to this only block. I shouldn't be able to access it out of it. But if I save it, you can see I can still access it. Even if I go here, I can still access it. I mean, that's very common sense thing, right? So then what is this block scope? It is not limiting itself to it. So for that, it will not work with var. Now we have a different way of defining variable, and it is called as let. So when you define a variable with let inside of a block, okay, inside of a block, and if you try to access it outside of it, like I'm doing here, so it will show me IA is not defined. And if I just change it to var, again, I should be able to access it. So see the change here. Now why it is useful? Sometimes what you want is, sometimes you want to use one variable everywhere, like maybe you are very comfortable with using it. So where a is equal to 20, and you want to use that a inside of a if statement as well. But if you use a here again using var, now it will have some conflict. You can't just use that because the value of a will be 10 here. Now it will not be 20. So in such cases, you can just use let. You can do whatever you want to the let inside this block, and it will not affect do anything with the a which is present in the global variable. So that's the one use of it. There are other benefits as well. We'll be getting into that into the session. So that's about it. Global scope, declare in the global, local scope, declare in the function, and block scope, declare inside of the blocks. If else, while loops, and then if else, while, yeah, for loop, right? So these are the things that has the block scope. So that's about it. Make sure you have gone through it carefully, have a look at it. All the concept that we covered today, we'll be having quiz on this thing. First thing in our session, we'll be having around 10 to 12 question, and let's see who wins. We will try to keep it simple, but again, just trying to check how much you have gone through this thing, how much you have understood, so that we can arrange our session better. So that's it, guys. See you in the session. Thank you so much.